Okay, YouTube is up and going, and I will keep an eye on the YouTube chat as always. Nice to see you again, gentlemen, and we'll kick off the May 28, 2024 Rider Oversight Committee meeting. I'm Stefan Wunsch. I'm one of the co-chairs of the Oversight Committee, along with Wig. Want to introduce yourself, Wig?
Yep, I'm Wig Thaymore, longtime member from Somerville.
Len, want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Leonard Diggins, longtime member from Arlington, East Arlington.
Thank you. And Craig, want to just introduce yourself?
Hi, Craig Laskowski, longtime member from Milton.
Thank you very much, gents. To start off, we did get going a little bit late, so for the permanent record on YouTube, we hadn't fired up the webinar or Zoom at the 5:05 public comment period. But if anyone catches this later or joins late, I'll make sure that I put it out to them that we'll take public comments near the end. And as always, people are welcome to put chat into the YouTube chat or into Zoom chat if there's an attendee. I'll keep an eye on both. I don't have my notes up from the previous subcommittee, so I will do that right now. Does anyone want to begin talking about the 2 weeks ago subcommittee while I'm pulling up my notes?
No, just to say we're in a cycle with Len's leadership making comments on Boston MPO planning.
Yep. And I have it. Have the notes that I took right here for me to bring over and put on the screen. I can make it a little bit bigger than that, I think. How's that for everybody? Good enough? Or speak up if you have any concerns or can't see that. Again, for anyone who can't see the screen, these are my notes from. Oh, go ahead, Len.
I was gonna say it needs to be a little bit bigger for me.
Sure thing.
Thanks.
No problem. These are my notes from 2 weeks ago, subcommittee meetings.
Great. Thank you.
No problem. Go a little bit further over like that. I think it speaks for itself. I'm going to pause while I refresh my memory of what I typed personally. Yeah, I think it's worth calling out for the record that one of the points about safety in the problem statements for the 2050 MassDOT review is that according to what we read in that MassDOT document, environmental justice communities have higher rates of injury and death than non-EJ communities. And speaking for myself, I found that surprising. I had not, before I had read that, I had not associated EJ communities with higher injury and death rates from pedestrian and motor vehicle accidents. So that was new to me, and I'm going to be watching for that in the future much more. I mean, I had no idea until I read that. And I forget who made the quote, but I think it's a really good one. This is not an exact quote; it's a bit of a paraphrasing, but when there is service changes, a person who gets a new one-seat ride is typically at the expense of someone else's new required transfer, which is a way of saying there's no such thing as a free lunch. If you're going to give a more direct ride to one person, most likely you're going to take away a one-seat ride or a more streamlined trip for somebody else. And it's, of course, a balancing act, as is, I mean, it's a cliche, but public transit is all about compromises. And what? No one's happy. That's my opinion, of course. I'm not making any. I'm not reflecting any statements other than my own.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
Well, I mean, I might have said that. I don't think I did. But I mean, chances are it is true. But what is, I think, almost certainly true is that to increase the frequency or decrease the headways on one route will likely result in a decrease in frequency or increase in headways on another route. Given that you don't increase resources, but whether it be a one-seat ride on one route results in a transfer being on another part of the system, I just can't say conclusively, even if I did say that last time. I don't think I did, but if I said something similar, well, then I'm having reservations about that statement now. But certainly the frequency one I'll stand by, at least for now.
Yeah, very good.
There are a few exceptions in the larger corridors where they can piggyback local on top of express routes. But obviously, there's an awful lot of territory where that really can't be done because the ridership's not high enough. But I think when that's done well, and legibility helps too, people understanding things. But yeah, I think Glenn's right in general. I'm sorry.
I was just saying one thing. I mean, the context in which I could have said that last time was some complaints from folks in Arlington about being not having a one-seat ride to certain destinations. And in all honesty, I mean, the person I'm thinking about, it wasn't so much that they didn't have a one-seat ride as much as it was they didn't have a ride to Alewife as opposed to Davis.
Yeah.
I mean, they wanted to go to Alewife because they wanted to get on the train at Alewife because they felt that they were guaranteed a seat at Alewife versus going to Davis where they might not necessarily be guaranteed a seat. And I'll bet this person wanted a seat in a particular car. Because it's not like all cars fill up at Alewife unless there's a problem. I mean, if there's a problem, then yes, everything's going to fill up at Alewife. But if there's a problem, the level of service, at least for a little while, is just severely deteriorated. I mean, not only will you not get a seat, the train's going to be really crowded, and that trip is going to take you a long time just because of the boarding, and deboarding. So that's it. Sorry to interrupt you. So big.
Oh no, that's okay. I just wanted to put an asterisk down for the current subway work. I was a little surprised. Maybe I just wasn't paying attention at how substantive the short list looks to be in the next month or so on subway improvements, with some delays necessitated as well.
I have that slide that was given at the board meeting for later on in this meeting, talking about the planned.
Yeah, and the Globe picked it up. That's where I saw it. If I have time to read the papers early in the morning before the world gets going, then I'm better informed than other days.
Yep, got it. I can pull that up later or now? Should we cover? Oh,
Just want to
hang on.
note how substantive it seemed, which is good in the long
Yeah.
run, certainly. And this is the right time of year to do it. The weather's better. The schools are on, the colleges and universities are on summer schedules, and the public education as well. So it's the right time to do it.
Absolutely right.
And just for the record, I'm gonna need to leave me around 7:50. I have another, I'm sorry, 6:50. I have another meeting at 7 o'clock.
That's not a problem. I think that's a goal that we can aspire to.
Well, I mean,
Or
you all
wrap
can
up.
keep going. I'm just letting you know.
Yeah, I got you.
That if anything I need to say, it should be said by 7:50.
No problem. Oh, I forgot. Let me move this window a little bit so I can keep an eye on attendees here. Okay. Just to run down the rest of the items from the subcommittee.
And just real quick, as we're talking about track improvements.
Yep.
Just anecdotally, there is meaningful impact when they're done. I think I would say I'm pleasantly surprised, but just based on I think it's taken a long time for me to understand that this is going to be a journey and a process, and you could do segment by segment, and you have to judge the success of track work based on how those improvements are in between those particular 3 or 4 set of stations. And so now that the red line is substantially complete between Ashmont and South Station, meaning that there's another round of track work completing the Andrew to South Station piece, you're starting to finally see all those pieces come together. So it's good. It's good just from an anecdotal perspective. There's a meaningful improvement.
So I don't want to pick apart your words, and I apologize if you think I am. But you said you're not pleasantly surprised, but does that mean that your expectations were met, perhaps? Maybe I'm just wordsmithing. Or
yeah, no. I think that's a fair way of putting it, to say that they did track work and there was a meaningful improvement. And I think we're after having done track work last year, I think that original track work was disappointing because you say, oh, track work is all going to get better, and you realizing that was part 1 of 2 or 3, because they have to do these set of 4, the lines in between these 4 stations, then we'll do the lines between these 4 stations. I think you're now finally seeing the fruition of these segments being done, now another set of segments being done, truly giving you a close to pre-COVID ride experience from Ashmont into the city.
Wow. That's impressive. Now, would you call it a quality improvement, not just in terms of travel time, but maybe also in reliability or comfort even?
I wouldn't go that far. I mean, I don't think I have an explicit memory of 5 years ago it being super bumpy and now it's super smooth. I think I'd say, mainly just in terms of the headways that are in the just time, right? From point A to point B, being back in line with my memory of how that used to be. And obviously it's very anecdotal, but I think it wouldn't surprise me in the coming months you'll see that backed up from a data perspective.
Excellent. I'm really glad that
understanding that I'm speaking to a very specific track area where I know there's been improvements. I know they were done stages, and it's a line I know well. So I have a reference point to say, this is normal or not normal. But it's different, but it's going to be that journey for everybody else, right? Like, that it's some lines are ahead of other lines. We went through that whole chart a few months ago, kind of what the plan was for this year into next year. So I think they just got to keep cracking away at it, keep executing one piece at a time. That's what you got to do.
Well, I wanted to pull it up, and since you mentioned it, just to make sure that we don't forget, or make sure I don't forget. This is from the most recent presentation to the board from last Thursday, and I don't believe there's anything that is significantly different. I think this is pretty much in line with what was published a month ago, 6 months ago, even. But we're smack in the middle of, no, not smack in the middle. That would be the end of June. But we're well along. Well, I guess if you figure the last 2 months of 2023, this is probably the halfway point, you could call it. The completed work, I mean, 17,000 feet of rail. That's huge.
Yeah.
And that's just Blue Line. I mean, that's miles and miles and miles. Every time I see these numbers and, resurfaced and stamped 41,000 feet, it just makes me smile to see that kind of scale. And then there's the red line where I'm assuming, Craig, this part is where you were feeling it. Ashmont, right? This is the EA, that's the early access, lifted 13 speed restrictions. Does this ring true?
Exactly. It's that combination of speed restriction or or lifted that that made a big difference.
Excellent. And oh yes, I almost forgot to ask about this. Glass panel replacement. Did you happen to see that at Ashmont, Craig, at any point? Like either the work being done, or just did you happen to notice it? What is it brighter, more airy? I mean, is this?
Oh no.
I don't know the context of.
No, we've just lived with some cracked panels for a long time.
Oh.
So I think I will double check next time I'm through. I didn't notice. I was probably rushing between point A and point B, but there are in the quote unquote new Ashmont station. I guess it's 10 years old at this point. It's not 15.
Right.
There were a number of glass panels that were broken near the trolley, Mattapian high-speed line, pickup and drop-off point, and then there was more recently one down on the red line platform. So I'm assuming, and the ones on up by the trolley, a few of them have been there for quite some time. Where there's a kind of a plywood put up, and it was just kind of like that. So I'm assuming that's what that is.
Wow. So were these just cosmetic cracks, or were these like panels that were completely missing, and you were not getting the kind of weather barrier that you should have?
Well, I'm going to have to see, because they're actually saying 180 square feet of glass panels. I'd be curious to see that that seems more than I would have thought. So I'll be curious to see if I can tell if, there were 3 or 4 significant sized panels, but I don't know if that adds up to 180 square feet. I would have guessed, each is, but I suppose if you have multiple panels that are, if there's 3 panels out, and each panel is, 8 by 8 or 8 by 10,
Good point. Right. That's
you can get to 180 square feet pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Good point. Right. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah. 10 by 18 is 180 square feet. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm almost certain that there were a couple of panels which kind of like, how when safety glass or tempered glass has that, has that fractured look to it once it breaks.
Right.
We had a few of those, and then we had one that was actually the glass was actually removed and plywood was there. So I'm assuming it's those panels that were replaced, and there was.
Cool.
Plus, it's a different scale from residential glass, right? I mean, public facilities just have a different scale, so that's not surprising.
Agreed, and it's also we've gone down this rat hole before. Just there were some design decisions on the Ashmont station from 15 years ago that you could question, but.
Just
Okay.
to go back to the beginning here, I think I probably noticed the Boston Globe article because it was there wasn't like a political grudge, comment attitude to it. It was just so clear what the substantive attempt was going to be. It kind of struck me
Hmm.
as progress.
Yeah. Anything more on the track improvement? I think we covered what I wanted to mention. And Craig, specifically, thank you for bringing that up because I wanted to bring that up, and I'm really glad to hear from your personal experience that there is a noticeable, would you call it notable and noticeable improvement? I guess that's kind of the same thing.
I did remark upon it, so I would say it is worthy of remark, making it remarkable.
Very good. I like that. Anything else on the notes from the subcommittees before I pull this page of notes away and we go on to a next agenda item? Okay. Oh, yeah, I forgot. This, right. This was an interesting call out that this may be water under the bridge. Are some of the design elements in the CRRC cars now obsolete by the new travel patterns and ridership demand, etc.? And it seems like the discussion was hinting at, yeah, likely that's the case. I mean, super wide compared to previous generations, super wide doors, fewer seats, more standing. I mean, that those were all design elements from before 2020, and it's what it is for the next 40 plus years until we're buying another $1 billion of cars in. Geez, I can't even do the math.
And I was probably the one who brought that up. The point being, they were the point being those cars are designed very specifically to handle peak of the peak, and design decisions were made to make very wide doors and to improve
Yes.
lighting and improve onboarding, and then less seats in line with kind of the old big reds to ensure that you have additional you can jam as many people as possible, because it really to handle the peak of the peak. Would you design it the same way today? Where I'll walk it back slightly from what my comments were in the subcommittee would be, they may be the wrong design for the next 10 years, but having thought about it and thinking about the long game of these probably having these cars for 30 years, who knows what the city of Boston will look like 20, 30 years from now. We don't know if the core will return. We don't know, how many people will live in the city. Maybe maybe they'll double in size, and we'll have said, oh, thank goodness we have those more newer cars. So in the end, is it, as a rider today, is it frustrating when you don't get a seat? Yes. In the long term, 20 years from now, is it better to build towards capacity as opposed to comfort? Probably, and only time will tell.
Yeah, I use, well, I guess I don't use the lines every day, but I use the orange line and the red line, well, and the blue line. I guess I use them all, but I have to say I like the orange line trains, and in part I like them because they do handle crush capacity quite well. You can get in and out of them at crush, and my red line experience has in recent years has been more on the older trains, including all the way from Davis down to the end of the line in Quincy. And when there's pretty much, I'm going sometimes to half-day meetings in Quincy and for Logan and Massport, and there's no one there's no one on the train when I get down there. So it's kind of weird. But I do like the cleanliness of the new Orange Line cars. They look easy to clean. I am on them sometimes at rush and crush capacity and can get on and off. And, even if I have to wait for one train to go by. So, I mean, I don't ride as often as some other people, but
At the risk of belaboring the point, even though I'm so good at it, ha ha ha. You said cleanliness. Now that
well,
surprised
I
me a little
think
bit.
they're so smooth. The surfaces are so smooth inside that I think they're easier to clean, both the seats and the walls.
That's really interesting. Had any of you gents heard that come up in previous comments from anyone
yes,
about
it's why you don't have it's why you don't have cloth seats anymore.
True, but it sounded like
Kind of
you're
modern.
talking more about like
They just
cleanliness,
hose
like
it. They just hose it down.
yeah.
Yeah, I think it's good
Oh,
because one reason I think it's good is that there's a huge variety of people that use these trains. There are some people who are homeless, have problems that they can't really control. There's other young families that couldn't get around any other way with regard to the economy of it. And I think being able to clean them easily is a really good feature.
absolutely, I agree. I'm just I think I'm hearing maybe for the first time that someone's saying that they seem to be easier to clean. I mean, that's really refreshing. I don't think I ever heard that as one of the design elements, but could be, and I've forgotten. But
No,
I'm
it
yeah.
was, so yeah. I
Okay,
mean,
cool.
I think I remember either Carney or Wolfgang saying, with some seats, the cloth seats, where you look at it, you're not quite sure what you're sitting on, that would no longer be a factor with the new um, cars. Yeah. Um,
Okay.
Now that puddle, you'll be able to see the puddle as opposed to sitting on something damp that you didn't see. You can still go ahead and sit in the puddle, and we don't necessarily know what the puddle is, whether it's soft drink, or not so soft drink.
Well, I was thinking beyond that, just walls, windows,
Yeah,
floors, even
yeah, that's true.
are there elements of those that make it easier to clean? I mean, if there are efficiencies being had, like if the cleaning crews are accomplishing more in a given work period because the new trains are easier to clean, then that's huge.
And I would say, I don't mind standing at all or leaning against things. And in all those varieties of ways to ride, I find them pretty accommodating. I'm in reasonably good shape physically, but not not best of shape compared to some other super fit people. But no matter what kind of position I'm in when I ride, crush against the wall, in the middle, hanging on to something overhead. I find all of those work.
I'm very glad to hear all that. Is there anything that any of you gents want to add verbally for discussion right now about the last point? I mean, we talked a lot in terms of the leadership and, well, what, as it says here, for the record, for anyone who's not reading, we had a discussion of leadership, planning, and strategy, both at the governor's level, the EOT, and MassDOT and MBTA. If there's nothing to recap there, I think I'll pull these notes off the screen and we'll go back to the agenda. Okay, cool.
Sure. If I can briefly maybe talk about the draft UPWP, just in case,
Please.
we want to run longer, on the MassDOT being beyond your mobility. So I don't have the draft ready, I'm actually working on the advisory council's the draft letter for the BPWP. Because I don't want the two letters to be the same. And so, but what I think I'm going to comment on for ours is once again, they are the funding and the support of us. They're funding Jonathan's role. And so I'll say that we really appreciate that, and that it's a really big benefit for us to have him. And they are also going to be doing this Community Leadership Institute, which is actually an idea that I had, although it wasn't that name. I mean, mine was more of an NPO academy to help people in the community learn about transit and transportation. But the effect is pretty much the same. That is that we want to create a mechanism by which people in the community can learn about transit and transportation, with the main goal being to create a pipeline of people who can participate in entities such as us, the advisory council, and other transportation and transit related, not necessarily community based, but probably community based in organizations. And main the main goal being is to make sure that there is a long-term commitment to this process, because as we all know, it takes a long time to even begin to have the confidence to know what questions to ask, because transportation is complex, and when you're doing it as a volunteer, being on a part-time basis, which for most people is going to be once or twice a month, it really takes a while to get up to speed. And so you need to know that there are going to be people who are going to be there to help you out, answer questions. And if you do want a mechanism by which you can participate more frequently, then we would be there for you too. Meaning that they would learn about us, they learn about the advisory council, and so if they wanted to maybe sink their teeth into a media project, there'd be people at the advisory council and also at the MPO and us that could help and work with them. And as you all know, it's nothing like teaching someone, to help you learn and stuff even better, because they'll ask those basic questions like you're like, of course, that's a basic question, and of course, I don't know the answer to it. Now I need to go and get you the answer, help you figure out the answer, and you learn it, So I'm really excited about that. So I want to comment on that. I've been commenting on a way that complements what I'll write as a comment, or what the advisory council will do as a comment in this letter. And again, just express appreciation for the support of us. So ours will be a one pager again. The advisory councils may be a little bit longer. So I will try to get. I'm not sure when this was due. I think it's due the first week of June. So I need to get the advisory council's letter written for tomorrow morning, because that's when we're going to go over that draft of it. So I'm kind of working on that deadline. I just didn't get as much done this weekend as I thought I would. So had a Memorial Day ceremony yesterday that just drained me. And got home and took a long nap, and just could not get into gear for writing. So that's why I haven't.
That's okay. I'm in a similar kind of a boat where I am really not even anywhere close to having a draft of the 2050 MassDOT comments, but I'm hoping. My goal is to have those by the middle of the day on the 30th, which would be Thursday. The deadline is May 31st. So hopefully, if I can give everybody 24 hours to look at it by email, that'll be sufficient. Yeah. I've had a lot of time commitments in the past 3 weeks that just came out of the blue. That were completely unexpected and utterly unavoidable. But
yes, man, I think that if you get them a decent draft in by the 31st, you could revise it and say, hey, on Monday, and say, hey, here's my revised draft, and they'll take it. It's just that they have to have some kind of a deadline, but those deadlines generally aren't they're not like you're applying for a grant, you know, a competitive grant,
Yes.
you know, so
Yep.
yeah, just get
Yep.
something in.
I
And,
I acknowledge that, and I'm not letting that uh, let myself ease off
oh
for
yeah,
the
no,
next
no,
48 hours of working on it.
right.
Yep.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Thank you.
In fact, I mean, I started reading it too, and I'm kind of excited about it. You know, I have to stop. I couldn't allow myself to keep reading because I really want to read the the financing part of that plan. You know, and
Yeah.
see what ideas they have for long-term financing of it. So I'm definitely going to go through that, but I won't get to that myself until like Thursday. You know,
Sure. Yeah. Well, because I want to offer, we don't have to go into that level of detail, but would you like me to pull up the UPWP just so that you could talk about, or we could highlight some parts that are of interest to you? Because we totally don't have to.
um, well, I mean, if you're interested, that's fine. You know,
I'll
yeah.
defer to other folks.
Uh,
It doesn't matter to me one way or another. I mean, I'm happy to, I appreciate the efforts you two are undertaking, and I'm happy to look when you have things for us to look at.
Thank you.
Well, I will say, I mean, I have read the whole UTVP this year, which is something I generally don't do. I mean, I think I may have read the whole thing maybe 5, 7 years ago, when I was first wrapping my brain around it, you know. And of course, then it was a little hard to wrap my brain around it because it was all being just kind of a, a, a transparent black box. And by that, I mean, I just didn't
Yeah.
understand how it just hooked in to everything else. And as it is with all these big documents, the first time you read them, you kind of you get sidetracked by a lot of the tail because there's so much tail there. And so you try to take in all the tail, but there's just so much of it that your brain just stops working, you know, after like the first 100 pages, you know. And after you're involved for a while, you kind of realize, okay, I can breeze through me this section to section because it's just documenting me a process that isn't particularly relevant me to me what they're going to be doing in a given year. And but just reading me what they did last year, and what they're planning on doing this year. I mean, it's really very ambitious. I would dare anyone to read the whole document and list 10 things that they find really exciting, you know, in that document, because the challenge would be to keep the list to only 10. And you go through.
I wasn't sure where you were going with
Yeah.
that. I'm like, list 10
Yeah.
things. I mean, keep it to only 10.
Keep it
Very
only 10.
good. You caught me on that one. I didn't know where you were taking that. Very good.
It would be hard, especially for transportation geeks like us. It's like just
Yeah.
and for us who really care about. I mean, it'd be hard just to keep the 10 transit or active transportation type goals. And so it's very ambitious. And I just got a lot of interesting ideas. And apparently, like there's this like university transit or transportation consortium. You probably know about this wig that's done by MIT, Harvard, and
Yeah.
and it's called like the UTC. I guess their website is utcmit.edu.
Yeah,
And so
I was going to say MIT, MIT runs ahead on these kinds of things because it's fun for them.
yeah,
And the other place is Chicago, has had some of those things over the years too.
yeah. Uh, 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 so yeah, a lot of bike and ped stuff. In their performance-based management stuff that they're working on. It's just really very ambitious. So yeah, I was happy that. Or the main reason I read through it was because we had only 3 discrete studies this year. Last year we had only 4. Because we're only spending 150K on discrete studies, and it's been a little frustrating, a little bit depressing to a certain extent, because that's mostly what the EPWP committee does is choose the discrete studies. And so now we get to choose only 3, which means that you're really only looking forward to the results of 3 discrete studies. But they do a lot of other studies, and they're always interesting. And so I'm trying to weave in, how to make that they should bring forth a lot of the data that isn't in discrete studies. and they do a fair amount of that, but I think we need to do a little bit more of that. Like all the corridor studies are presented to the board, you know, and we're not selecting the corridor studies, but we never really selected the corridor studies, but at least we got to see the corridor studies that were under consideration. And also, I think I will get back. I don't think this will go anywhere, but maybe I can kind of skirt around the edges of. We do a lot of studies. The CPS does a lot of studies for other entities like the MBTA, MassDOT, you know. And so my request to them would be for any public entity for which you're doing work, you know, you don't have to send us the entire memo, although it'd be nice if you did. And if it'd be nice if you send us the memo that you send to them, but at least let us know when it's completed and let us know any interesting results you got from it, you know, so that we could be aware of that information because it could come in handy, you know, because they are doing some interesting studies for these other entities, and that's listed in the document too. So yeah, I've always been impressed by them, you know, and reading through that document just made me even more impressed. And they're not a big organization. I mean, they're like 60 people. And the budget's like $8 million, which is a whole lot of money. So that's it for the EPWP.
I'm impressed.
And it's a fast read too, you know. So I would say if you're going to read it, just start at chapter 3. And if I was going to read only one chapter, I read chapter 3. So I guess the sequence that I would do would be chapter 3 on the MPO process, you know, and the 3C support processes, you know, and then the appendices. I mean, those are a good read. You know, and then maybe chapter that deals with MAPC, their work. So maybe 3. Actually, I guess a chapter on discrete studies. So I think that might be 4 or 5. So MPO processes and 3C processes. Read that. Then I guess then read the chapter on discrete studies, whether that's 4 or 5, I can't remember. And then the appendices, and then back to MAPC. So those would be the 4 that I read in that order.
Cool. I'm glad you were calling those out so specifically because I might have to just refer back to this video recording to hear those suggestions again. But knowing this is being recorded, I didn't try to scurry and type up all your suggestions there. But thank you for being so specific.
Right.
That's huge.
I promise. I've just been reading it today. So, and I've started writing. I mean, I've got maybe a third of it written, you know. So I need to get the rest of it written tonight or very early tomorrow.
Right.
The meeting I thought was going to be at 2:30 is actually 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. So I was planning on doing some writing. Yeah.
Got it. You said, Len, that you've got to go about 10 of 7.
Yeah. And
if my math is right, that means we've got a little less than 45 minutes until then. Would you like me to pull up some of, I'm asking, you know, anyone, the 3 of you, 4 of us, pull up any of the slide decks from the Region Board of Directors meetings? Or is there more that we want to dive in on 2050 plan, UPWP, anything else related to those 2?
We should probably take a look at the operating budget because that's out for review at this point in time. So I know that the advisory board, MBTA advisory board is in the process of reviewing it. It's going to send out its letter, you know. So I mean, I don't know if we want to chime in on it. I have to check the deadline to see when we need to get that in, you know. I don't know if I'll have the bandwidth to put together a letter on that. You know, we put one out on the CIP, you know, so it'd be nice. It'd be nice to put one out on the operating budget, but
I just found it.
Yeah,
this is it, right?
I guess so. You know, and I don't know if there's a book to go along with it. I mean, last time, if I recall correctly, they didn't actually have like a budget book. I mean, they just had like a presentation like this, which was a little. Think I think even Kane, from the advisory board was a little frustrated by that. You know,
Oh,
but I guess the more I think about it, I mean, I guess it wasn't really a CIP book, and there was just a website and with extensive slides or a PDF, I mean, a really detailed PDF, which to me is the same as a book. So
I'm sorry. Did I hear you say CIP or budget?
well,
You
I
said
was
CIP.
I was comparing a what we may have here for the budget to what we have
Yep.
for the CIP. So I said
Gotcha.
both.
Okay, gotcha.
And we did a letter for the CIP. The only reason for not doing one for the budget is we just don't have the capacity to do it. Yeah.
Okay. I haven't looked at this in detail. It was only last Thursday. Um, $93 million annual savings target. Okay. Oh, revenue of tell me if this is not worth reviewing in any level of detail here and now, and I'll just skip this and we can look at it the next subcommittee or on our own. Total revenues up, net revenues up. Sorry, total expenses up, net revenue up. Comments, directions? Where do we like to? We want to take this anywhere? Move on?
Stefan, whatever you want to do.
Okay. I suddenly got myself just mesmerized looking at this since I hadn't seen it before, so I'll stop doing that.
They're pretty big numbers.
Yeah, especially the I keep seeing all over this 93 million savings, but on the slide that's right in front of me right now, it says, I'll just read from it. The 93 million in savings is not required to balance the fiscal year 25 budget and will not result in negative impacts to service. But it's still a target to implement $93 million in savings. Okay.
Sounds like a lot to me.
Much of these slides seem like we've seen them before with the ridership numbers and the state support numbers.
Yeah, they have, like Len, they have more continuity than most of us because they're working on these things full time. So, or nearly full time. So they have, what they have done in the year past doesn't disappear from their head the way it might with me. Which is good. More efficient for them.
Yeah.
Which is good for us.
I'm just going to pull this over very quickly because this is maybe one of the key takeaways here. So, okay, there we go. That's why it's not part of the FY25 budget. It's this 93 million savings to accrue over the course of the fiscal year to go into offsetting the gap for 26. Okay, that makes more sense to me. I was getting very baffled, but it turns out I was getting baffled by this part on the following slide where it's saying 93 million not required to balance the 25 budget. That didn't make sense until I read what was on the previous slide. Savings to go to 26. Okay. All right. I don't want to be just sharing slides and talking out loud for my own edification, so I will move that along.
I just can't find when the comment period ends on budget meeting towards the end, just for the appendix. It says that directed to split the name. I guess the deal is that they just send it to the advisory board. I guess they don't look for comments from the public. That's interesting.
Is it possible that the
I guess
budget
that's it.
is one of the few things that the public is not encouraged
It may very well be.
to provide
It
comment?
may very well be.
Okay.
They're not saying here that they're releasing it for comments to the public. I'm not seeing anything on our website. So, well, I guess then, for better or for worse, we're off the hook in terms of feeling a sense of obligation to
Okay,
respond
fair
to
enough.
this. I'm still going to read the detail for either the next all committee meeting on the second Tuesday of the month, which I guess will be the 11th. Or will it be the 10th? Something like that.
Okay.
And maybe it's the 11th. And also want to do the audit. Get an audit. I've been really meaning to read the audit. I think it's going to be interesting. And maybe talk about that meeting too.
Len, who does the audit?
I would imagine the state auditor, huh? I think it's the state auditor. I mean, that's who. The last time I read an audit, it was Suzanne Bump, who was the state auditor.
Okay. Because obviously audits have to be independent, so that's what I wondered.
Yeah, I mean, I think the team might have some other entities that do other smaller scale audits, but this I think was a big audit. Well, of course, I guess I read two audits, of the MBTA, and one was on the way that it handled some of its investments, and that was by Suzanne Bump.
Yeah, and obviously it's different from the private sector where the audits have to be completely unrelated entities.
Right.
That's kind of why I was curious.
Okay. So, yawning.
I think there's only go ahead. I
was just saying, I just have not done as much deck review as I normally do, for these meetings, so come 2 weeks from now, or when is it going to be? The second Tuesday. It will be the 11th. So come to the 11th meeting, should have a whole bunch to say in that meeting. I think all the comments, letters will be done by then, and I can finally catch up on deck review, which I always look forward to doing. I'm not so much from the decks, so.
Mm-hmm.
Just one more related thing that I know you'll probably know, Len, and Stefan might as well. I mean, everybody else might as well. How often does a federal agency audit the transit side? Like Federal Rail or, Federal Transit or, it's one thing to have audits within state government. it's quite different often to have audits from outside of state government.
Well, I
I
don't
don't
know
know.
that at
I
all.
don't know. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if you would call what the feds do to the MPO every 4 years an audit. They certainly do.
No,
They
I
do a
wouldn't.
review. Okay, they do an
Yeah,
extensive
I
review of the
wouldn't.
MPO. Okay.
But I do know, they step in sometimes when they sense a problem that's not being addressed with discipline. So that's kind of why I was why I was curious about that.
All right. Yeah, I don't know. I'm thinking who would know? Jonathan might know. He
Yeah,
might know. I mean, although it might be getting so far away from operations.
I think he would know.
I think
I
he would
think
know.
you're right.
And if not him, Brian Kane might know. Trying to think of who else I mean I would know. Yeah. Could you essentially want to know how who audits who audits what the MBTA or who audits
Well,
Keolis?
either one actually, but I think that I'm not as worried about Keolis because they're somewhat independent. So I think the things within Massachusetts tend to function somewhat as an audit function. Um, I'm also thinking about FAA, right? I mean, obviously some of the global jet incidents recently with extraordinary turbulence and Boeing having had questionable oversight and discipline after the move of all their executives to Chicago. Obviously, that's a really serious situation, but it happens. It happens like that freight train derailment on the western Pennsylvania Ohio border. I'm sure there must be somebody like under Buttigieg who must have stepped in and audited that.
I think I
Yeah,
might
but
have actually just found the answer. If you don't mind me
no,
pulling
please.
this up.
Yeah.
Um, this was a bit fortuitous, but I just found this on the MBTA website, and I'll make it a little bit larger. This is for the year ending June 30th, and this was put out. Um, I'm scrolling down a little bit fast, I know. This was issued December 2023, so call it 6 months ago. And this is independent auditor's report over financial reporting and compliance.
Yeah, but this is
And
going to be more like an accounting report.
oh, I thought
And
isn't that not what you meant
well,
when you were talking about auditing
no,
the agency?
no, I was also thinking about,
Share this.
risk beyond finances. I mean,
Okay.
financial risk it is certainly an important thing that has to be looked at regularly, and financial management, and they overlap. But safety and accidents and injuries, occasional death, those things are different kind of audit that also require more than accounting firms.
I get your point. Um,
Well, that the FTA audits the MBTA for safety. But I thought you were asking like who audits the FTA, and I don't know if anyone audits the FTA. Other than maybe Office of Management and Budget, they might do audits of federal entities.
Yeah, but they're pretty small. But yeah, I don't. Office of Management and Budget absolutely looks at a lot of different things, including risk, and including injuries and mortality from a financial lens. Accounting auditing is
Okay.
so large and so standardized. I mean, it's different for government. It's handled differently for government than from private entities, corporations, but it's pretty standardized.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, this document I was sharing a moment ago is listed under the A133 single audit reports, like as if to say that A133 is some sort of a financial standard to which one adheres.
Yep, you almost hit it on the nose, FASB.
Okay.
Hey guys, I'm sorry, I'm going to leave in about 5 minutes. Is there any other topics you wanted to cover?
Yeah, actually, I think you might want to see or have see the latest or make comment on this last thing. Really, the only other thing I wanted to bring up for tonight was about the AFC 2.0. It actually got a lot of media coverage just right after the board meeting. Had you seen the latest that there was the change authorization to actually, or to the change order that was authorized for accelerated public launch of contactless payment on subway and bus?
Well, that's great. That's good news.
Yes. I mean, if you believe what's here, then it says that the base project cost will be lowered up to $41 million, which means that I mean, if you read that, maybe it won't be lowered by $41 million. Maybe it'd only be lowered by $1 million, but it might be lowered by as much as $41 million. But that's me being cynical. Sorry.
Well, this is going in the right direction.
Yeah.
Can I ask a stupid question about this?
Please do. But there's no such thing as a stupid question. So, yeah.
Well, yeah, sure there are. With me anyway.
There are. There definitely are, because I've asked them. I've asked a lot of them. It's like it's like, oh my goodness.
Now, does this equate to cell phones?
Yeah.
I am glad you asked that, because
smartphones.
I believe that's in this detail right here.
And how is that compliant with ADA?
Well, just as long as you have another option, right? You know.
Yeah, it's about optionality. Not every option has to work for every person.
Well, I've been noticing. I'm sorry, Craig. Go ahead. I've been noticing.
No, I'll stop there. No.
I've been noticing that the supermarkets like Star have their big sale items only accessible to people with cell phones. I don't see how that's legal.
I don't know.
You know what the hell if you're blind, or what if you don't have a cell phone? How could that possibly be legal?
At what chain was it? What store?
Star. Yeah.
I think we're going down a rat hole here, guys. And I got to keep us focused. We'll solve supermarkets after we solve the
Well, I
MBTA.
just want to make sure. I just want to make sure that the transit system is not going to do the same thing.
I'm with you. For the purpose of brevity, so we can get it in with Craig still here, let me just point out that it's spring 2025, I believe, where the cell phones come in, because you can see the icon of a cell phone here, and this says mobile app, and there was something else when I read this the first time.
To be fair, this is not new ground here. The commuter rail has had an app for a decade at this point. So I just want to make sure we're keeping focus here that this is a modern evolution to be able to pay by app.
I get that.
Yes.
But civil rights is civil rights. You can't break the civil rights laws.
No, nobody's saying anything taken away. Let's be focused on the positives here. And if you have knowledge of something being taken away, then we can take that separately. But we're just speculating at this point, right?
I'm not speculating.
I'm not speculating. Can I step in and say something? mean, there is that RTAC group, for T, and so I think that give the T a lot of guidance on accessibility issues, and I think they're a fairly serious group, so I'm sure the T is consulting them, so they have a website. I think they have a T sponsored website, so we can probably go, onto the T site, and see what they're saying about this, So I don't know if that'll be satisfactory with me, but it is, I think, to say that I think they are consulting riders and hopefully other people about what is legal and what is, and even if what we consider a substandard service would be legal, we don't want to simply be legal, right? We want to be good, to all people, and so I think they would probably have that standard.
Yeah, I mean, my experience, and I have a fair amount of legal conflict experience, is that it's tempting for organizations, including big ones, to follow their instincts until they're brought up short by actual laws and regulations.
Mm-hmm. Well, I hear you. I hear you.
So why don't we leave it there, and we'll agree that this is something we continue to monitor, and it's probably something we need to look at in further detail.
Yeah. Yep. And I'll just highlight as best I can, just quickly. Equal access.
Yeah, I'm going to drop, team. Thank you so much.
All right. Yep. See ya.
Thank you, Craig. So I guess the question is, what is exactly accessibility improvements here? And we'll have to follow up on that.
Yeah, no, I agree with Craig's suggestion. Park it, and keep it in the back of our minds.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yep.
It's RTAG, and so they have a page, and looks like their last meeting's on March 28th. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I think I saw that on the events page as well.
Yeah. I don't know if this page is not being updated. Looks like they were meeting monthly, but for some reason, maybe they didn't meet in April. No, they had meetings in April. No, never mind.
Yeah, May 23rd was the last one. And before that, looks like.
Oh, they have one in May 30, they have one in May?
Yeah, May 23rd. There's no slides or agenda up there on the MBTA website. Yeah, before that, it was March 28th. Oh, I'm sorry, April 25th. Yeah, there was an RTAG on the 25th, and there's a recording up.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a slide deck from RTAG on the 25th. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, since it's just the three of us.
I'm looking at this is not really saying anything about the AFC 2.0, looking at their agenda. So I'm just looking at their agenda to see if they're saying anything about AFC 2.0.
Oh, hey, it's Robbie there. And the fellow on the far right, I know him from the commuter rail. He used to live in Salem. I used to see him on the train on a regular basis. Rob, boy, I have him my contacts. Yeah, I'm not seeing any. Not seeing any AFC. Do they have a website? Is it like is it like a is it like actually a subdomain? Is it like rtag.mbta.
Let me see what it is. It's
I'll do the same thing elsewhere.
Oops, lost it. So if you go to the MBTA site and then mention on the search, the R tag, it'll come up, and then all I see is MBTA.com accessibility, MBTA.com/accessibility/get involved /R tag. So it's not like they have a subdomain. So following the breadcrumbs, you just go to accessibility on MBTA.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking at I found their bylaws and the MOU.
It's FAQ.
Yep.
Certain things you can bring up to them. We could bring up to them. It'd be interesting for the Rock to come in and ask them about. And is the AFC 2.0 legal in terms of the way it's providing access? I would hope they wouldn't feel territorial. And we could go in and just say, we just want to know. We're not trying to step on your toes.
Right.
Yeah, I just bring these things up in part because they weren't that intuitive to me until I started interacting with some of the people who had been part of the vanguard in these issues. You know, people like Judge King, the gentleman who was standing up with the big walk stick, who was part of the original MBTA accessibility lawsuit. Chris Hart, the young woman who I know you know, Len, who has focused on this off to the side the last 10 years, not I think longer than that, but
right.
For me, it wasn't all intuitive. I really got some fundamental education by paying attention to what some of these people were saying.
Right.
I hear. But they have an interesting FAQ, it's kind of worth reading. Does not say anything about AFC 2.0 though. There are a lot of questions here, so maybe I'm missing it.
And I do expect the private sector issues will be much greater, because these are public service oriented entities. So
I didn't follow you on that, Wig. Can you
go
into a little more detail there?
Yeah, I mean, there are some private entities who are not inclined to always double check on whether they're breaking some accessibility laws or cultural aspirations. That's much less, I think in large public entities, it's largely because if things like that happen, it's because people are focused on their main mission and they don't necessarily have the resources to look at the edges where they also have some responsibility. So I think it's fundamentally different. I don't want to be overly critical or suspicious. I just learned from other people that some of this stuff is pretty important.
But I think the behavior in the past where accessibility was not on people's radars, it's on everyone's radar now. I mean, you can't. Someone's going to bring it up really soon, and usually people factor it in to their plans. In fact, you can't design a website now without making it accessible, because otherwise your SEO is low, and so that kind of builds an incentive for people to make their websites accessible, because if they want people to find them in a search easily, then that factors into how high they rank. And my sense, and it's only a sense, Wig, is that we can get implementations of technology that aren't as accessible as we want, but soon thereafter it will be. accessible, and so I know it's easy for someone, who has, pretty much all their faculties now to say, well, just let progress kind of go at the pace that it wants to, because I think you will get more access sooner, if you let it really just zip ahead, than if you try to hold it back until each
Yeah.
step is fully accessible. So
No,
like I
that's
said,
fair.
but I
Yeah.
said, go ahead.
Yep. No,
Yeah.
I think that that's fair.
Right.
I absolutely understand that, where the bulk of the focus is, and in that being applied to large scale progress, and I think that's entirely fair.
Yeah.
I just want the only things I'm concerned about are the really substantive things. I
Right.
don't care about the small stuff on the
Right.
edges.
Yeah, no, I hear you, and where I'm thinking is just that I just think technology is going to be the solution for a lot of the accessibility issues, and so instead of
Sure.
the machine that you are interfacing with providing you with access, it'll be a machine that you carry with you,
Yep.
that will provide that access, and I'd like to see us really focus on developing their technology, but also then making that technology available to everybody, so that you don't have to be
Yep.
wealthy in order to have it. Be like if you have a disability, you get the device, that is going to help you interface with the rest of society, not as an equal, but as close to that as you can get,
No,
because yeah,
that makes a lot of sense to me. For example, if you had a cell phone that could scan something and then turn it into an audible communication
right,
for somebody who couldn't see that well,
right,
I think your point is a
yeah,
good one.
yeah. So, well, all right. I'll circle back to Jacob and see, how he's doing. And haven't seen him for a little while. He's okay. And then Hunter, for a reason, probably just wasn't able to join us. And otherwise, I guess we got our kind of standard turn. Oh, I heard from James. He's doing well.
Yeah, excellent.
Yeah, he's actually now bouncing back and forth between Italy and Burlington, Vermont, I think. So he's no longer in New York. So
James J.
James J.
Italy and Burlington, Vermont.
Burlington, Vermont. So it
I would
happens. Yeah.
never have guessed.
When he said Burlington, I asked him if it's Burlington, Vermont.
Oh,
I
yes.
haven't heard back from him, but I think that's it. So I doubt it's Burlington, Massachusetts. But either way, he's communicating between someplace in the U.S. and Italy. So
Huh. Is he
apparently.
still focused on space?
I think I asked him that in the question too, so what is he working on? Yeah, because I know he was doing the telescope stuff, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
uh,
there's some pretty amazing stuff.
uh,
Even if you just read the New York Times and
right,
and scan the stuff that comes up, some of it's just mind blowing.
yeah. Was his telescopes space based or were they ground based? Do you remember? I think they were
Um,
space
I,
based.
I don't remember, but
Yeah,
he was in the building between one. Well, he was at Draper,
yeah,
basically.
right,
He had
right.
an office at Draper,
Yeah,
and they do some pretty advanced stuff.
yeah. Uh, so yeah, yeah. Um, So yeah, he's still there. He got our last two letters up, and then so we'll maybe have a letter or two more going to put up. Yeah. All
Excellent.
righty.
Um, I'm trying to find it. I'm struggling to find it, but I just want to mention, just like sort of to stick a fork in the question about accessibility and fare payment.
Yeah.
I have a memory that visually impaired customers of the MBTA do not pay fares. And that's based on my personal experience seeing uh, a visually impaired blind rider on commuter rail on a regular basis with a guide dog, and I believe I chatted with him one time. I mean, he was never asked for fares on the commuter rail,
Mhm.
and I believe that that's the policy. But I'm in the last 5 minutes, I have not been able to come up with it, so I don't know if it's just commuter rail policy, if it was like a unofficial policy, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
this is pure speculation. I know we're on YouTube and on everything, so I'm just gonna say it's pure speculation, but it might make sense. Oh, I just found it. Okay. I'm looking at the MBTA guide to fixed route services for accessibility, and it says customers who are blind or have low vision, as well as accompanying sighted guide, may be eligible to ride for free. Visit this website, call this, or stop by Charlie Card Store, which I
Well,
think doesn't exist anymore. But
that sounds like a reasonable solution to me. I mean, it's not that large a number of people. I wonder if the same type of thing applies to people who are wheelchair bound.
no, because I know that from personal experience, knowing two people who use commuter rail in wheeled mobility, aka wheelchair, they had to show a discounted pass, but
Okay.
it was a pass.
Okay.
But
All right.
for it, apparently it's visually impaired is the free. But again, that just to go on record again, that's a
Well,
personal recollection from before the pandemic, and I'm going to try to find out
yeah,
for
and
sure.
I think it's fine for practical solutions to be found for these different categories of incremental need to make accessibility as close to universal as possible. But
Right.
practicality works well for everybody. It's less disruptive to the system as a whole, as well as to the people who are using the alternative methods.
Right. All right. Well, I'll stop. I'll
Okay.
stop searching around in another window, and we've only got a couple minutes
Yeah.
for. We'll decide to wrap it up.
Here we are coming at the end of May. This year's flying by, huh? Wow, 5 months down.
The best way to deal with that, Len, is just don't get any older.
Funny. Funny that you say that because I just turned 55 2 days ago.
So
I
you
see
made
nobody watching on YouTube, and there's no comments in the YouTube chat. I'm
your
sorry,
birth
Len, you were about to say?
your birthday's May 26th?
Yes, it is.
Cool.
Or at least this year it was on May 26th. Next year's birthday is on May 26th.
Oh, I thought maybe the leap year like pushed it ahead by a day. Yeah, I pulled it back by a day. Yeah.
No, I adhere to the calendar of Greg
All
or
right, folks.
Ian.
Sure, good. I got that.
You got that?
I
Yeah.
got it. Yeah.
The calendar of Greg or Ian.
All right.
Gregorian.
Well,
yeah. Okay.
I got it. No, I got it.
Thank you.
So if you
It's an old one, but it's one of my own.
any if you have any ideas for the agenda, for the meeting on the 11th, let me know. By the end of the previous week. Yeah.
Yep. I do, and I will. I will, and I do. Yes. Thank you.
All right. Take care, gentlemen. See you.
Thank you very much.